The rain pattered down on my windshield as I parked my car in front of the dreary old house. It was the perfect day for an estate sale. "Watch yourself, sweetheart," Mrs. Chen from next door had told me when I went off campus. Old houses hide things. I chuckled at the memory as I walked up to the front porch and climbed the steps, listening to them creak like old bones. Walking inside, I found myself in a quiet, musty old house, full of people looking around at the furniture and knickknacks of the long-dead occupant. "Third floor's now available," a weary woman in a red vest says. "Watch out for the loose floorboards." I make my way up to the third floor and wander aimlessly from room to room. "Get anything good?" another customer asks me. She's holding an armful of old sheets. "I'm still hunting," I respond, stepping into what appears to be a kid's room. That's when I spot it. It's at the very back of the room, towering over me. The frame is ornate and beautiful, with golden flowers and vines wrapping around it. It somehow seems to absorb light from the surrounding room, casting itself in a bright relief. I approached it, seeing that its reflection was a bit cloudy and indistinct, but it was still a reflection. "That thing's been here ages," says the woman in the red vest behind me, startling me. "No one will take it. The glass is all cloudy." "How much?" I say. $10 if you can get it out of here." I pulled out my wallet, thinking there must be a catch. $10 for something this beautiful. "Sold," I say, not sure what else to say. "Suit yourself?" the woman said, taking the money. "Do you need help getting it down to your car?" "No, I can handle it." I struggled a bit, but eventually got the mirror down to my car. Despite its massive size, it was surprisingly lightweight. The rain had turned into a drizzle by the time I got it into my back seat. "You're sure you want this?" a man asks, packing boxes into his truck. "That mirror looks off." "It just needs to be cleaned," I reply, even though I'm not convinced. The ride home is stressful, and I keep looking in the rearview mirror, seeing the golden frame of the mirror behind me. When I get back to my dorm room, my roommate isn't there. It takes a while to get the heavy mirror up the stairs on my own, but eventually I manage. "What do you think?" I ask my reflection, rubbing away some of the dirt with a used t-shirt. I looked at my reflection, and something about it made me uneasy. It was probably just my imagination. The door opened suddenly. "Sarah, you would not believe what Jason said in study group." Hannah trails off, her eyes catching my new purchase. "What is that?" "Estate sale find," I respond. $10. Hannah came up next to me and peered at her own reflection in the gray, cloudy glass. "It's probably haunted or something. That's why it was so cheap. It just needs a clean." I reiterate my earlier excuse. "Besides, the frame is really nice." She almost touched the golden surface, but then withdrew her hand. "I don't like it. It feels wrong. You're overreacting." I turned to glance at the mirror, feeling a strange uneasiness at the way the darkness in its reflection seems to shift and shimmer, as if it has a mind of its own. "Suit yourself," Hannah replies, tossing her bag onto her bed. "Just don't come crying to me if you wake up and your reflection is trying to murder you." Nice try. A loud crash of thunder outside makes us both jump, and the mirror pulses in time with it. "I'm going to get food," Hannah says. "You want to come?" I thanked her and told her I'd be right there, but first I wanted to have a snack and then take a closer look at the mirror. The more I studied it, the more I realized how much detail there was in the frame of it. I could see faces in the vines, hands reaching out, and strange eyes staring at me from the bushes. Outside, the rain began to pour again. In the mirror, I saw my reflection, sitting perfectly still on my bed, but I could have sworn I had just moved. "Just sleepy," I say, wiping my eyes. But when I look again, my reflection is smiling. I'm not smiling. I stare at my reflection for what feels like minutes, until lightning flashes outside my window, casting a bright white light over my bedroom, and for an instant, it looks like somebody is stirring up the surface of the mirror with their hand. The smile in the mirror was gone as soon as I blinked, and I was staring at my own reflection again. There was a sound of thunder, and I told myself I was just seeing things. "Get a grip, Sarah," I say aloud, standing up and propping the mirror against the wall. I was about to move it when I felt something on the back, a bump or something like that. I hesitated for a moment, but then I leaned the mirror to the side. There was writing on the back. It said, "All that is me is yours." That's not creepy at all, I say to myself. Another loud crack of thunder was followed by a flicker of the lights above me. I looked at my reflection again and saw it was just me. My reflection did what I did, moved when I moved. It was just a mirror with a love poem etched into it. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I pulled it out. "Please tell me you haven't been devoured by your weird mirror yet," Hannah's text reads. I wrote back, "Still alive. It's actually a perfect fit." Then I snapped a picture of the mirror in place. Hannah came back into the room. "Left you some," she says, throwing a wrapped slice on my desk. "Since you were too busy, playing with your spooky furniture." "It's not spooky," I say despite myself, our reflections in the glass, moving at the same time. It really ties the room together. "Did you check for any ancient runes or signs of sacrifices before you brought it home?" Hannah asked. "Oh my God, there's writing on it, isn't there?" "It's nothing," I insist. "It's a love note or something, some old Victorian sap. Show me." We tilted the mirror forward together, revealing the inscription. "All that is me is yours," Hannah reads, and then she repeats it with a whisper. Super creepy. "It's kind of beautiful," I say, although I'm not convinced. "It's the beginning of a horror movie," she says, lying on her bed and pulling out her phone. I'm looking up haunted mirror stories. I unwrapped the pizza slice and tried not to look at the mirror every few seconds. Every time I glanced over at it, my reflection looked the same. "Check this one out," Hannah says, sitting up. In 1873, a young woman bought an antique mirror from an estate sale. 3 days later, she disappeared. The only clue left was a handprint on the mirror's surface, on the inside. "That's fake," I say, taking a big bite of pizza. Or this one. Mirror purchased by the Henderson family in 1922 reportedly had reflections that moved on their own. Entire family vanished within a week. A flash of lightning lit up the room, and for a brief second I thought I saw my reflection staring at me. But then it was back to normal again. "I'm gonna go get my shower," I say, picking up my toiletries. "Don't conjure up any mirror monsters while I'm gone." She tossed a pillow at me. "Your funeral." The bathroom was thankfully devoid of mirrors, just the usual stalls and showers. I let the hot water wash away the stress. When I came back to our room, Hannah was already in bed. "No demons so far," she says without lifting her head, "but it's still early." I put on my pajamas and ignored the mirror, even though I felt like it was watching me. The words on the glass glinted ominously in the light. "Good night," I say, to her and to myself in the mirror as I hop into bed. "If you wake up with your soul stolen, you know I was right," Hannah mutters, drifting off. I set my alarm and plug in my phone, doing my best not to look at the mirror as I lay down in bed. The rain continues to patter against the windows, and I find the sound oddly relaxing. Laying in bed, I look up at the ceiling, watching the shadows dance across it. Everything is normal, I think to myself. Everything is fine. There's nothing wrong with that mirror. It's just a beautiful antique. I fall asleep slowly, my eyes growing heavy, and just as I'm about to drift off, I see a flash of lightning. My reflection is looking at me from the mirror, sitting up in bed, smiling at me in a strange way. But then I'm asleep, and nothing makes sense anymore after that. The last thing I hear before I drift off is a whispering voice. "All that is me is yours." And in a dream I see dark clouds and a rippling surface, like water. Then I wake up. It was a long night, and an autumn storm raged on outside my window. I tossed and turned and didn't feel very well rested as I got up and went to have a shower. The rain had stopped, but everything was wet and the sky was gray. I got dressed and went to class, trying not to look at the mirror on my way out. The first half of the day goes by without much fanfare. I attend my classes, thinking about my dreams from the night before. My mind is elsewhere as I listen to the professor drone on about art history, taking notes in the margins of my textbook. Finally, my classes are over, and I make my way back to my dorm room. I open the door, feeling a slight trepidation at what I might find inside. And the first thing I see is the mirror. It looks different than before, I think. Almost as if it has a ravenous hunger and is trying to eat up all the light in the room. "You're trippin'," I say, throwing my backpack down by the desk. I turn on the light, illuminating the room, but the mirror is still dark. The shadows are even deeper. I see something moving in the reflection, the drapes swaying in the breeze. But when I look at the actual curtains, they aren't moving at all. They're completely still. I look at my reflection in the mirror. It's me, but it feels wrong. "Okay," I say out loud, desperate to hear a human voice, even if it's my own. "Let's see if this works." I took down 3 books from the shelf and placed them on the floor in front of the mirror. "Stay," I say to them, feeling a bit silly. I pulled out my phone and saw a message from Hannah. I'll be home late. Have a study group tonight. Don't let the mirror eat you. Very funny, I text back. But maybe come home? I grabbed my keys and glanced at the mirror one more time. The books were sitting there in a stack, both in the reflection and in reality. Nothing strange at all. I'm going to get coffee, I say to no one in particular. I locked the door behind me and went out into the hallway. It was warmer out here than it had been in my room, I realized. The coffee shop was packed with students, but I found a place to sit and ordered a coffee. Then I pulled out my phone and began to search for information on old mirrors. Hey, Sarah! Jason from my morning class is behind the counter. You look wrecked. Just tired, I say. Studying. Yeah, that art history midterm is going to be a killer, he says, and then he's gone. After reading up on mirror folklore for another hour or so, I finally decided I had to return home. It was dark outside when I arrived back at my apartment. I unlocked the door with trembling hands, telling myself it was just the coffee I'd had. Everything was just as I'd left it. The books were still stacked in the same way, and the mirror was still standing in the middle of the room. I let out a relieved sigh. But then I saw something in the reflection of the mirror. One of the books was opened up, and its pages were being flipped by that same breeze I couldn't feel. I looked at the books on the floor. They were still stacked there, and none of them were open. I looked back at the mirror. The pages of the book had stopped flipping, as if it knew I was watching it. No, I say, stepping back towards the door. This can't be real. The words etched into the back of the mirror are burned into my mind now. All that is me is yours. My phone buzzed again. On my way home, Hannah's text says. Pizza? I'm still looking at the mirror as I'm typing this. Yes, please hurry. And then in the mirror, I see my reflection smiling. But I'm not smiling. It looks at me. And then I hear footsteps in the corridor. I turn on every light in the room, but it doesn't help. The mirror is still dark. I must figure out what's happening. I must figure out how to stop it, before it's too late. Because I know it will get worse, and my reflection knows it too. It's evening now. I don't know what to do. I don't dare to leave my room, but I'm afraid to stay. And now I'm exhausted, and I need to sleep. I don't want to sleep with the mirror in the room, but I have no choice. I'm going to change and lie down in bed. I don't want to look at the mirror, but I know that's not going to help. I didn't fall asleep easily that night, and when I did, I had a strange dream. A loud static noise was filling my ears, and I opened my eyes to see the blue light of the mirror filling my room. Sarah? It doesn't sound quite human. This isn't real, I say, even though I know it doesn't matter. The mirror turns dark and cloudy, as if filled with black water, and I see something inside of it. A shadow. And then I see a hand. Long, bony fingers reaching out towards me. They stretch out, extending longer and longer until they are far too long to belong to a human. All that is me, the static voice says. No, I whimper. The fingers are getting closer to my face now. I can see how they're bent in all the wrong places, how they have too many knuckles. And I can see something else coming up behind them. All yours. I feel a cold hand touching my cheek. I wake up with a start, gasping for air. My shirt is drenched in sweat. Sarah? Hannah calls out from the dark. Are you all right? I reached for the lamp and turned it on. Yeah, it was just a dream. I looked around. The room was as it should be. I peered into the mirror and saw our confused faces looking back. Was it the mirror? Hannah asks, sitting up in bed. It felt like a real person, I say. They touched my face. I think I heard a bit of static. Do you want to get rid of it? Or put a sheet over it or something? Hannah asks. I shook my head. No, just nightmares. Right. Hannah's still not convinced. What's the time? I look at my phone and see it's 3:33 a.m. After a moment, the numbers rearrange themselves and I blink a few times, trying to clear my vision. Go back to bed, I say. I'm okay. Hannah asked if I wanted her to leave the light on. No, it's fine. I smile a smile I don't mean. Honestly. Hannah turns off the light again, and I think I see the time, 3:33, in the reflection on the mirror. But my phone isn't lit up anymore. I'm wide awake now, afraid to go back to sleep. I'm worried that the static will come back as soon as I close my eyes. They're just dreams, I mutter. Just dreams. But just as I'm falling back asleep, I hear something that sounds like static, or maybe whispered words. Everything that is me. I never went to sleep again that night. When the sun comes up in the morning, I breathe a sigh of relief, happy to have survived the night. The mirror reflects the light of the rising sun, as if nothing had happened. You look like shit, Hannah says, poking her head out from under the covers. Yeah, I say, but I'm not looking at her. I'm still looking at myself in the mirror. I didn't get much sleep. Maybe you should be looking up exorcists, not cursed mirrors, she mutters. I let out a weak chuckle. Maybe I just need some more sleep. But I don't think either of us believed that. I think we both knew something was wrong, and that if I fell asleep again, something bad would happen. The next 3 days and nights, I forced myself to stay awake. I nodded off several times, waking up after a few minutes, and each time I was terrified that the mirror would be gone, or that it would be somewhere else, or that things would be different, somehow. It's been 3 days since I stayed awake, and I can feel my mind slipping. I keep forgetting where I put things. A cup of coffee I remember placing on my desk is now on my nightstand. My art history book is on my bed when I thought I put it in my bag. Little things like that, which could be explained by stress and lack of sleep, but there are so many of them. Hannah hasn't made any more comments about the mirror. Instead, she keeps looking at me with a worried expression on her face. You know, you could crash at my sister's for a few days, she says at dinner. Catch up on your sleep. I moved my food around on the plate, not eating it. I have midterms next week. You're not going to pass if you keep that up. She was right. The bags under my eyes were dark, and I hadn't stopped shaking since yesterday from lack of sleep and too much coffee. I'll be fine, I lie and pick up my books, ready to try studying again. I return to my room. It felt colder in there, even though the radiator was on. I tried not to look at the mirror, but it was hard to avoid it since it took up so much space on the wall. It looked bigger than I remembered it, and darker. I sat down by my desk, with my back turned to the mirror. I opened my book about Renaissance symbolism. A dark outline appeared in the reflection of my laptop. I froze. A tall, lanky figure rose up behind me. It looked distorted somehow. Don't turn around, I thought, but I couldn't help it. Nobody was there. I turned back to my laptop. The figure was still there, even though I couldn't see it in the mirror. You're not real, I say, but I don't believe it. The person in the mirror looks at me with its head bent in an awkward angle. Despite the lack of a face, I can feel it examining me. I flinch as my phone vibrates in my pocket. Are you heading back now? The floor is doing movie night. I replied, something came up. Study group. I didn't want to tell him the truth. The shadow on the screen took a step forward. It was a single step that seemed to take forever, like the frame rate was set to a very low number. Stop, I whisper, but I don't know who I'm saying it to. The air around me feels colder now. My breath is visible in front of my face. I see the man reaching out toward his reflection, his long fingers extending to touch the glass. I slam the laptop shut. The mirror on the wall feels like it's vibrating, as if it has a heartbeat. It has to stop, I tell myself, speaking the words clearly. I remember the message written on the back of the mirror. All that is me is yours. It's not a promise, it's a threat. My phone buzzed again. Sarah, you okay? I typed back, no, I need help. The surface of the mirror grew darker, as if a storm was gathering within it. I saw something move in the darkness, something that was slowly unfolding itself. And I realized that I didn't have much time left. The storm grew stronger over the next hour as I sat in my dorm room, trying to get a hold of someone who could help me. But no one replied to my texts, and when I tried calling people, it just went straight to voicemail. I gave up after a while. The wind howled outside my window, and the darkness of the late autumn afternoon pressed against the window panes. As night fell, and the occasional lightning lit up the room, I saw my reflection in the mirror. I was going to be alone tonight. It's thundering outside. I gaze at the mirror. It's getting darker and darker in my room. I need to get rid of it, right now. I pick up my phone. It's 11:42. Hannah won't be back until 1. Just you and me, I say to my reflection, which may or may not be smiling at me. I put on my raincoat and boots and took the mirror down from the wall. It was heavier than it should have been. Okay, I say, repositioning my hands. Here we go. The hallway was empty. The emergency lights were on, and it was hard to see. I began to walk forward, holding the mirror awkwardly. Where do you think you're going? I almost dropped the mirror at the sound of her voice. It was Mrs. Rodriguez, our hall monitor. Just redecorating, I say, turning the mirror so that she can't see. In the middle of a storm? Optimal feng shui hours, I say, moving towards the door. I opened the door and went outside, stepping out into the rain. It was cold, but the mirror was dry and warm. Almost there, I say, running through puddles to the dumpster behind our building. The light flickered above me, and for a second I thought I saw something in the mirror. Something that didn't belong there. Something tall and... I adjusted my grip on it and hoisted it up, preparing to drop it into the dumpster. I hesitated, though, when I felt it pulling back against me. "Let go," I say to myself, but my hands refuse to listen. A flash of lightning illuminated the sky, and for an instant I saw my reflection in the mirror. It was looking at me, but I wasn't sure if it was me anymore. I pushed the mirror into the dumpster with all of my strength, and waited to hear the sound of it breaking. But there was only silence. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I was shaking all over. But it was done. It was finally done. I made my way up the stairs to my room, dripping wet from the rain and leaving a trail of water behind me. When I reached my room, I unlocked the door and stepped inside. I flipped on the light switch, and a bolt of lightning lit up the room. The mirror was back on the wall. "What?" I say, voice trembling. No. Before I realized what I was doing, I had my phone in my hand. "Hannah?" I barely recognized my own voice. "I need help." "Sarah? What is it?" Her voice is breaking up. "It won't go away." I can't take my eyes off the mirror. I tried to flush it. It came back. "Don't go anywhere," Hannah says. "I'm coming over." "Okay." I sat down on my bed, still soaked, and stared at the mirror. There was something moving inside it. "All that is me," the static uttered. "Is yours," my reflection concluded, even though I didn't move my lips. The minutes pass, and I get the feeling that the temperature is dropping. I swear I can see something moving in the reflection of the mirror. A tall, dark shape, unfurling itself and standing up like a spider climbing out of a drain. My phone buzzes with a new message from Hannah. "Almost there. Don't look at it." But I already am, and I can't look away. In the mirror, I see myself climbing to my feet, but I'm still sitting on the bed. The smile on my reflection's face reveals sharp, pointed teeth, and the wind continues to howl outside the windows. Everything starts to go black at that point. I only remember brief flashes of what happened next, like waking up from a dream you can't quite recall. When I came back to myself, it was morning. The storm was over, and the rain had stopped. But I was still in the same room, and I couldn't remember what had happened in the night. I'm sitting on my bed, soaked in rainwater, as the first light of dawn is starting to seep through the window. The mirror is hanging on the wall, and looking at it, I don't see anything but shadows. I have 3 missed calls from Hannah and a couple of unread texts. The door to my room opens. "Sarah? Oh, thank God." Hannah comes in, her blonde hair a mess from bed. "I've been calling and calling." "Sorry," I say. "My phone died." She put down her backpack and looked at me worriedly. "You don't look so good." "Thanks. What happened last night? Your messages were..." She looks at the mirror. "Disturbing." I tried to throw it away. "The mirror?" "It returned." Hannah sat down on the bed. "Came back?" she asked. "What do you mean?" I told her everything. "And now it's just waiting," I conclude, realizing I'm rambling like a maniac. "Okay," she said after a long pause. "Okay, that's it?" "Well, you're crazy, or that thing is fucked up." She gets up, walking towards the mirror slowly. "Either way, it shouldn't be here." I was so relieved I almost fainted. "You believe me?" "I believe you believe it." She faces me with a serious look on her face. "And I believe that thing is freaking me the fuck out. So let's get rid of it." I could see the sun shining through the clouds outside, and realized that the mirror didn't like the light. "Now?" I ask, my voice trembling with hope. "No time like the present," Hannah says, and she's already taking tools out of her backpack. "My dad's a contractor, remember? I know how to take stuff out of walls." She checked the mounting of the mirror, looking very professional all of a sudden. "Where do we take it?" "There's an abandoned quarry about 20 minutes away. It's deep enough to ensure no one finds it." I see it move a little, even though we are both standing still, but she pretends not to notice. "Okay," she says, standing on the side of the frame. I nodded and took hold of the other side. "On 3, Hannah says. 1, 2... We pulled together, and the mirror came away from the wall easily. Maybe too easily. "Well, that was anticlimactic," Hannah says, but I see she's avoiding looking at the glass. We carried the mirror down the stairs, attracting a few glances from other students, and then went outside into the parking lot, where it was warmer than I had expected. "It'll fit," Hannah says, opening her car door. "You just need to kinda tilt it there." The mirror slides into place with eerie ease. I shut the door quickly and try not to think about how the glass looks too dark. "All right, let's go." Hannah says, getting in the car. We drove in silence for a while, watching the cityscape turn into country roads, the leaves in the trees changing colors as we went further north. Almost there, Hannah says, pulling onto a gravel road. No turning back. A few minutes later, we arrived at the old quarry. Okay, you ready? She says, turning the car off. I nodded, suddenly unable to speak. We each took one side of the mirror and pulled it from the back seat. It felt heavier now as we carried it towards the edge of the quarry. The wind howled around us, and I saw the water far below, reflecting the sky. On 3? Hannah says. Hold on, I just have to check again. The mirror is black now, like a window into nothingness, and from the darkness, something is unfurling. Now! I yell. We pushed the mirror forward. It flew through the air for a second or two, tumbling over itself, and then hit the water with a loud splash. Holy shit, Hannah says. We did it. I stood there for a moment, watching the ripples disappear, and felt a strange mixture of relief and disappointment. Come on, Hannah says, pulling at my arm. Let's get breakfast. You look like you haven't eaten in forever. We walked back to her car, the sound of our shoes crunching on the gravel. The water in the quarry returned to its calm, placid state, and deep down below, something waited. But for now, I was free of it. It was a long drive back to the university. It gave me time to think everything over. It was as if I was dissociating again, or maybe it was the opposite of that. I'm still not sure. We were almost back to the university when we finally arrived. It was easier to drive back to campus without the mirror in the back of the car. Hannah sang along to the radio, the sun was shining, and it all felt a little bit surreal. You need a normal night at home with some takeout and trash TV? Hannah says, as we pull into the parking lot. That actually sounds amazing, I confess. I can't remember the last time I did something normal. We walked into our dorm room and made our way up the stairs to our room. It felt different going up there this time. There was no anxiety, no fear of what lay on the other side of the door. The mirror was missing, I noticed, as soon as we went inside. Chinese or pizza? Hannah asks, scrolling through delivery apps. Chinese. I'm starving. Yeah, no shit. You haven't eaten in like a week, just coffee and terror. I chuckle at this. Fear is very low in calories. As the evening progresses, we sit on our beds, eating takeout and watching reality TV. The mirror is back to normal again, or at least it appears that way to me. Did we really just dump a haunted mirror in a quarry? Hannah asks, shoveling lo mein into her mouth. When you put it that way, yeah. This was so silly and also horrifying. I stared down at my rice for a moment, then said, thanks for believing me. Come on, what are friends for if not helping to get rid of haunted dolls? It's dark outside, but not in a threatening way. My eyes are getting heavy as some reality star shows off her new look. I think I'm going to actually go to sleep, I say, the prospect shocking me. Hannah looked at me with concern. Are you sure? I don't mind staying up? I'm fine, seriously. I brush my teeth, wash my face, change into pajamas. It feels good doing these things under regular lights, not having to do them in front of a mirror, with my back turned to the darkness. Night, Hannah says when I turn off my lamp. Night. I felt relaxed as the lights went out. For some reason, it felt like I belonged here, like this was where I was meant to be. I drifted off to sleep and was soon having deep, dreamless slumber. For the first time in a long time, I didn't hear static in my sleep. There were no voices whispering to me, no reflections reaching out from mirrors trying to pull me in. Just the sound of shattering glass in the distance, which I barely registered. Dong, 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 dong. The sound of a bell was ringing in the distance, but I barely noticed it. It was just part of a dream, I told myself. Nothing to worry about. Dong, 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 dong. And somewhere in the back of my mind, something whispered. Everything that I am. And in the quarry, something moves. A ripple begins to form like a reflection shifting in silent anticipation. Slowly. The ripple in the quarry grows larger and larger until it reaches the boundaries of the world. And at the same time, the disturbance travels across the campus, reaching the 3rd floor of Harrison Hall around 3 a.m. The sound of a bell woke me up from a dreamless sleep. I felt a sense of suffocating dread as soon as I woke up. It was dark, and there was an eerie silence in the room, as if something was happening, or about to happen. I reached out for my phone, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't see the green light of the alarm clock either. Hannah? I ask, but no sound comes out. There was no answer. I could only hear the faintest sound of static coming from the other end, a sound I had hoped I would never hear again. It was dark in my bedroom, and it was difficult to see. As my eyes adjusted, I began to make out the outline of my desk, the window, and the wall where the mirror used to be. Used to be. Because now I could see the mirror was back, hanging exactly where it had been before. The glass of it was shimmering, as if being hit by a beam of light that wasn't there. No, I say softly. This can't be happening. The static got louder, and I started to hear words, or maybe it was just laughter. I sat up in bed. "Hannah?" I call out more intensely this time. "Wake up!" There's no response. Nothing. Just silence. A faint scratching noise comes from the mirror. I look over at it and see movement. Something is shifting in the shadows. And suddenly I remember the words again, as if seeing them in my mind. All that is me is yours. Where's my phone? I need some light. I feel around the bed on my hands and knees. Do you mean this? The voice that isn't my voice asks from the direction of the mirror. I looked up. In the reflection, I saw myself looking at my phone, the screen casting a blue light across my distorted face, and the leering grin which looked like it had too many teeth. "No, no, no," I say, my voice trembling. "We banished you." It cocked its head off to the side, staring at me with its neck at an impossible angle. "Did you really think water could drown something that lives in reflections?" The white noise was growing louder again, and the air was getting colder, smelling of mold and mildew. "What's your wish?" I ask, knowing full well what it is. The creature wearing my face drew closer to the glass and said, "You know what I want, Sarah. What was promised. All that is me." "Is yours," I say, the words metallic in my mouth. The reflection grinned even wider, if that was possible. "Good. Let's get started, shall we?" It reached out a hand, pressing up against the inside of the glass, and the mirror rippled like the surface of a pond. The static grew louder, filling my ears. "No," I say, shuffling back and nearly toppling off the bed. "Get away from me!" "Oh, Sarah," the reflection says, sweetly chiding. "You let me in when you took me home, and now?" The glass starts to bend outward, and water begins to stream down the wall. The joints of the fingers begin to emerge slowly and deliberately as they stretch out towards me. "Hannah!" I shout, my voice cracking. "Someone! Please!" But the only response is more silence and darkness. It's as if the only light left is coming from the surface of the mirror. The thing that looks like me steps through, dripping with water. "It's time to make good on your promise," it says in my voice, and its hands are like jagged tree limbs, outstretched toward me. I back away against the wall. My thoughts are a jumble of static. The creature is right in front of me, its face morphing between my own and something else. "Please," I say under my breath, but I don't know who I'm talking to. The thing stops and looks at me with its head tilted to one side. "Shh," it says, using my voice. "This is what you wanted, isn't it? To see your true self?" It reaches out and strokes my cheek with one soaking wet hand, and I feel the icy cold of quarry water on my skin. "Because," it says to me, its face so close I can smell the pond water on its breath. "Everything that's me." The static grew louder and louder, and then everything went black. "Is yours." It becomes darker and darker, and time slows down. My thoughts are heavy, and the crackling, hissing noise doesn't stop until I finally wake up to find myself lying on my back on the stone floor again. The darkness consumes everything except for the static and the smile. I want to move, to scream, to fight back, but I can't. My reflection stands above me, growing taller and taller. "Shh," it whispers, stroking my cheek with those impossible fingers. "It will hurt more if you fight it." The static seems to pulse with my heartbeat, like it's saying something to me in a language I can't understand. The dripping water is freezing cold. "Stay away," I croak, trying to back up against the wall. The thing in the mirror laughs again. "We're almost there, can't you feel it?" And I could feel it. My soul was being tugged at, slowly being pulled out of me, as my reflection became more and more indistinct. "Hannah," I call out, but the words are heavy, warped, and lost. "She can't hear you," the thing says, sloshing closer. "Nobody can. It's just you and me, Sarah, like it was always supposed to be." I feel like I'm going to fall over sideways, and the darkness around us is swirling and shifting. I can hear something in the distance, a window breaking, or a child laughing. "Please," I beg, not knowing what for. It leaned in close, smelling like swamp water and rot, and whispered in my ear. "You don't get it, do you? This is what you wanted. Why else would you have brought me home?" "I didn't know." "You knew." It's caressing my face with horrible tenderness. You knew, deep down, you knew when you first saw me. You felt it. You felt what I could do. The static grows louder and louder until it's difficult to think. My reflection changes, at times my own, and at other times something else entirely. "What are you?" I manage to say. "I am the creature that resides in glass, the thing you see when you look in the mirror, the thing that lies behind every mirror. It moves its hand to my throat, and I feel its cold fingers pressing against my pulse. Each heartbeat feels like it is being pulled out of me, being sucked into those dark holes. And now," he says, smiling even wider than I can, "I am you." The room is spinning, and I'm seeing myself from every angle, my reflections all around me. The static is speaking now, telling me things, making promises. "No," I wheeze, "I won't let you—" "You already did." The hand isn't trying to choke me, only to hold me in place. I feel the water dripping from its arm, soaking my shirt with the coldness of the quarry. "The more you struggle," it says in my voice, "the more it's going to hurt." It all goes black, but not as if I'm losing consciousness. It's different. As if I'm being torn apart and remade into something else. "Sarah?" I hear Hannah's voice behind the static. "Sarah, wake up!" The thing looked towards the source of the noise for a split second, and I took the opportunity to grab its wrist with both of my hands. "You're right, I did know. I could feel it. But there was one thing you forgot." The thing looked at me. "It's not just the darkness they reflect." I try to imagine light. Sunlight, candlelight, starlight. And the static begins to flicker and change. "No," the thing is saying. "You can't—" "Sarah!" I hear Hannah's voice again. "Wake up, something's wrong." The light grows behind my eyes, and the shadowy form of myself shrinks away, fading like fog in sunlight. "Everything I am," I mutter, now peering back at it, "is mine." The static was abruptly interrupted by a loud crashing sound, and the room was filled with light. Real light. Morning light. The creature shrieked like a banshee, and I opened my eyes to see Hannah standing in the doorway, her hand on the light switch, a worried look on her face. "Sarah, what's wrong? You were screaming." "The mirror," I gasp. "Is it—" The wall opposite my bed is bare. There's no mirror, no water, no dark shadows reaching out, just sunlight on drywall. "It's gone," Hannah said, putting her arm around my shoulders. "You remember? We got rid of it." "Yeah," I say, feeling the place on my neck where impossible hands had been. "We did." The static is gone, but there are times when I look at my reflection and I think I see something moving in the background, something dark, something watching me, and sometimes, in the middle of the night,